Taiwan is bursting with heaps of fun places to explore. Join me, Amber Hatfield, as I hit up travel hotspots, soak up some culture, and hunt down hidden gems. Let's go! Hello and welcome back. You're listening to Let's Go with Amber Hatfield. Today we have the second part of my interview with Sam Yarborough from 2-3 Comedy Club in Taipei. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, go back and listen to that first, and let's get straight into it. Have you ever had any experiences of people not taking well to jokes? I'm sure that happens.
Of course, yeah. Of course, like quite frequently things will pop up in, like Google reviews or comments and things like that. I would say there's very few people who are genuinely kind of mean-spirited and going after you about it. I would say the number one cause of complaint is people not understanding what an open mic is, which I'm not even blaming them for. That's not their fault. Like if you walk in off the street being like, oh, a comedy night, and you go in and you hear some really offensive joke, like I think it's quite normal to feel like taken back and put off by that. At the same time, we have to understand is that an open mic, there's nothing that's on stage that we're endorsing. We're not putting that comedy on stage. Again, if you sign your name on the paper, you get to go on stage for 5 minutes. There's very, very short of personal directed attacks against somebody. There's very few things that I would pull somebody off stage for, or jack the music up or things like that. I would certainly speak to a performer afterwards about, hey, you might want to be careful about this, this, and this. Or the way I typically phrase it, I'm like, if you're interested in being on our shows, I just want you to know that I would never put someone who says this in the show. I don't know if that sounds like censorship. I don't mean to be, but I mean that I take it very seriously if people are going to buy a ticket for a show at the club, that I want to put the best in front of them. And so I try to be mindful of that. But no, in terms of like anything like politically sensitive and things like that, no. But Brian Sung is no stranger to that. He's the Taiwanese comedian, and he's been the center of many. It seems like every couple of years, the Taiwanese press gets mad at him for something that he said, whatever like that. Which probably, if you're a good comic, which he is, he's an excellent comic. That probably means you're doing your job to some degree. If you're trying to find the line constantly, right, then it's natural to step across it occasionally. Yeah. So, how do you feel personally about things like censorship in comedy and stuff like that? Do you feel like that's a big problem, or in 2024, like comics have never had more unfiltered access to their audience, the ability to post clips on Instagram or different platforms and things like that. And I know that those platforms have some problems with censorship and things like that, but the ability to directly go to your audience means that you can get around gatekeepers in a way, like it used to be like somebody booking shows, whatever like that is kind of a big fish, small pond, like very much like a gatekeeper, because that show might be the only access that people have to an audience. 2024, I just don't think that's necessarily as true. So if somebody finds themselves, there's a difference, I think, between explicit censorship, where you're being told by an agency or a government that you can't say something and that this is taboo and you need to stop, versus kind of public condemnation, whatever people want to call canceling or something like that, where it's just, like, to what extent is that also the performer's responsibility to read the room and things like that? Like, I don't know. I see way more examples of comics trying to engage in very, very risky and taboo subjects very early in their comedy careers, when they might not have enough nuance to kind of articulate those jokes properly. Than I do comics saying something brave and bold and then being torn down by the mob. I think that the whole idea of comics being pilloried is a bit of something that a bit of like martyrdom that comics like to put on themselves a little bit. So I don't know. But in my experience, I think we're very lucky in Taiwan to have pretty good free speech rules. Again, most of the times when comics have gotten in trouble, it's for people getting angry. It's not the government coming in and saying you can't talk about this, and that's very different than some of the countries neighboring us. So I think I'm appreciative of the environment. Honestly, the bigger trouble we've had in our history is just dealing with Taiwanese bureaucracy to sort things like work permits and stuff like that. It's been so, we want to do at some point a comedy festival where we bring in have a, and part of that would be there'd be a competition part where you bring in 30 comics, have 3 nights that are like preliminary nights, and then the finalists go on and have a big, final night and things like that. But the idea right now of like, how do we sort 30 people's work permits all at the same time? And there's no part of the Taiwanese government that's engaging in like helping us do that stuff like that. It's very much swimming upstream at every situation. So I get more frustrated with that side than any censorship.
Yeah. Okay. That would be really fun. I would love it if you guys could do that.
Yeah, that'd be great, right? Yeah, it'd be really, really fun. So we hope that we'll be able to work something like that out.
Yeah, awesome. I want to ask you about like memorable moments at the comedy club, which I'm sure you have loads of. So I'm not sure if you're going to have any specific ones. But do you have any kind of favorite funny moments or like favorite funny shows that you've enjoyed the most while you've been doing the...
Yeah, I would say, definitely like the ones that have been really, really exciting are some of the big international comics coming over that we had. You mentioned earlier you went to the Sheng Wang show. Jason Chaney was recently at the club. These are, we opened again right before the pandemic. So we spent 3 years thinking of ourselves as an international comedy club, but having no international comedy whatsoever. Right. And so to finally have these like big names coming over and have a good time at the club. But I do remember there was one funny moment with one of the big international comics. I won't name who it was, but had just finished a couple of shows at the comedy club. They'd all been sold out, fantastic audiences, and we went to the bar and had a drink, and I asked them, basically I was riding high off the great success of these shows. I was like, what do you think? So what do you think of the room? Like how could... And the comment just very, very dryly was like, you have a problem with your lights. And then brought me in and spent about 20 minutes pointing out all the different ways we could do the lighting to fix it. And it was just kind of like this back to earth moment where it's just like, like this was so fun. And I think most of the moments that I've appreciated about the club are those kind of back to earth humbling moments, and also wanting to like push and grow the scene more.
Okay. Is there anything that you feel like you would have done differently, like if you could open the club again or start again, like would you do it any differently, or do you feel like you've done everything like the way that you would have wanted to?
Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about the way that we open and the way that we did things. Like the most of the learning lessons were on the business side, the fact of owning a bar and working with other owners and stuff like that. In terms of the important side, the comedy side, no, I think we've done a good job, because one of the things that we did from the beginning was understanding that the place wasn't going to solely be a space for stand-up comedy, and reaching out really early. The first group that I reached out to is FIG, the Formosa Improv Group. Okay. And they do now, since we've opened, every Monday an open improv jam and once a month they have their improv show at 2-3. So they've been with us literally since the very, very beginning, and providing a space for other showrunners, people who have an idea or a vision or excited about some kind of show, that we can offer a space to them with no overhead, and that they can come in and put on a show and put on a production, has been invaluable. And the people that I've met and worked with, that's been absolutely fantastic, I think. So no, I don't have any regrets on that. If anything, just wishing that I'd, been able to reach out to some of these people earlier and brought in more groups to the club to share the space and to perform at, because I think it's a great room, and it's a great environment to foster creativity when you can come in, and I have the expertise about the space to be able to let them focus entirely on their show and what they want to do without worrying about things like the front of the house and the door and the bar and the sound and the lights. Like, no, we can help you with all that. You just focus on the creative process and things like that. Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know what improv is, what is improv?
Yeah, improv is basically like a live performance that's unscripted. From short form improv, which is what would be, you might have seen on TV shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway, which are more like kind of games, like, all right, somebody give me a job, a doctor, all right, give me a place, a bus station, all right, I'm a doctor at a bus station, go, and they make a little scene, to more long form improv where they're kind of really exploring characters, but it's all unscripted live performance that's kind of reactive to the audience, and it's typically a comedic performance, but not necessarily so. They can be more dramatic and can explore different ranges of emotions and things like that. And Formosa Improv Group is really unique in that they perform most of the shows bilingually. So the scenes will alternate between Chinese and English, and so do their practices as well. They always have an English language and Chinese language instructor at every practice. So that's something that they've really embraced in terms of like opening up the performance to both languages. if anyone's really interested in participating, every Monday, 7 p.m. is their open jam where everyone can go and just play and improvise together.
Awesome. Cool. And I'd love to know about your audience. Like, how do you kind of have you seen the audience change or like grow over time since you've been running the club?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, it's very cyclical in English. We go through periods where the open mics are very, 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 very busy, and then it'll die back down and things like that, which is natural. Again, an open mic is an unusual thing in the comedy world to have an audience for at all. Like, I did an open mic in Boston once. There was 70 comics at the open mic. This is it's not almost designed for an audience activity. It's a practice space for the comics. So we're very, very fortunate to have audience that comes to our open mics. Overall, the English language comedy scene in Taiwan has grown, and it's grown in really, really unique and interesting ways where, just recently, I mentioned Jason Chaney, Atsuko Katsuka came to Taiwan. They're selling out theaters multiple times that other established comics, even with Netflix credentials and things like that, maybe don't even sell out that same theater once. But because of their connections to Taiwan, and because of the social media presence and the comedy that they have relates to the Taiwanese audience in a way, you're seeing amazing turnout for these shows and amazing enthusiasm for them. I mean, on the Chinese language side, the stand-up, the way it exists now, it has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. And the audience size, like Brian Sung, this last year, he headlined Taipei Arena on 2 nights. Tens of thousands of tickets sold for both of those shows. So the growth there has been crazy. It's been exponential. The English side, we're very, very steady and consistent, and we're getting more people out and more performers. But the excitement is being able to finally open it up to international performers and bringing people in. It's so healthy for our comics to get to see professional comics coming through and perform on the same stage where we do our open mics every week.
Do you have like a kind of on a pedestal performer that you would love to come to 2-3?
Oh man, I mean, so many. I mean, there's so many. Seeing Chris Rock, right? Just to bring it back full circle. The comic that I worshipped, listening to his tapes and everything like that, going through. That would be absolutely incredible. But unfortunately, most of the time, the people who would be on that pedestal are not going to play a 150-seat room on Linson Beilu. They're going to be at Taipei Arena with Brian, or they're going to be at a theater and things like that. So, but if I had to say just one, sure, Chris Rock would be incredible. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I don't know if if I had to do like a Mount Rushmore, I guess, of like the favorites that I would love to see on stage. I guess George Carlin is one of my favorites. Like reading all of his books and everything, and I would just love to see what George Carlin would say about 2024. That's one of those comics that you miss because of their you miss their live performances were so incredible, but he was also offered this really, really insightful social commentary, right? And so that's one of the ones you miss, like, I wonder what he would have said about all this stuff. And probably not a lot of good things. But, it would have been interesting. So Chris Rock, Bill Burr is one of my personal favorites. Patrice O'Neill's a comic who passed away, who I would absolutely have loved to see perform live and see how he would have handled the audiences here and things like that. But that'd be the top of my list, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I actually just have this was not a question that I planned, but I just thought about it now. Do you have a lot of female comics? I mean, I think normally in like the comedy space, a lot of the comedians are guys, and I'm not sure if people always react the same way to female comics as they do to male comics. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, first of all, like that's a good question. It's a 2-part question. Do we have female comics? Yes, the best English language comic in Taiwan right now is a female comic named Jamie Wang. She's from China, and she's studying at NTU, doing a PhD actually. Anyone who's seen her recognize her. You might have seen her. She opened for Xing Wang one of the nights. I don't know. If you had a chance to see it, but yeah, she's absolutely fantastic. So she's the best English language comic. It is true that the comedy scene tilts more male. On a typical night, I think on Wednesday we had 20 comics sign up for open mic. I think 7 performers were female, so more than half by a margin are male. It's one of the things that I think that maybe 2-3 hasn't done as good a job as engaging and getting more female performers. I think it's tough because the basic idea of an open mic is that anybody can perform, anyone can sign up. There's no barrier, right? It's easy to tell yourself, hey, there's no barrier to entry. any female performer can come in and sign up, and there's nothing stopping them. However, then I think you do have to look at kind of like the culture of a place and the environment and things like that. Well, is the place super welcoming to female performers in the comics? So I think we've try to be conscious of that without being like patronizingly so, but I think that's super important. I would love to see more female performers. Our last craft comedy show, I told the crowd, like, I'm very sorry to say we have no female performers tonight. And I told them the truth. I had asked all of the female performers who were in Taipei to join the show, and they all had something better to do that night. So it might just be that some of the guys just don't need to get out more a little bit, but yeah, that's something that I think that we hope to, promote more and more. And as you see amazing female comics like Atsuko performing and selling out theaters and things like that, you realize that like there's an enormous audience for all kinds of comics, and that comedy benefits from diversity, like very, very, like obviously in the long term, but very, very much so in the short term as well. A single show is better if you have different perspectives and different people during the show. It gets boring to see the same people talking about the same things over and over again. So, but that's something we definitely hope to grow and see more of at 2-3.
That's about all. I'd love for you to share a little bit more just about what's upcoming at the club, and if you have anything people can look forward to if they're coming to Taipei in the next couple months.
Great. Well, first I wanna thank you and want to congratulate you. I've done a few interviews about 2-3 comedy, quite a few actually, and you're the first person who has not asked me what's the difference between the Taiwanese and foreigner sense of humor, which I appreciate, which is a question that always drives me crazy, because it's like, I don't think all 23 million Taiwanese have the same sense of humor. It's basically the short answer. So thank you for not asking that question. Yeah, coming up, we're gearing up for a big fall. We have Matt Davis, an incredible comic from the U.S., coming on September 20th. We have Dwayne Perkins scheduled for early November, comedy from L.A. at Laugh Factory. Absolutely hilarious, has been on Comedy Central. Adam Hopkins, one of our good friends and favorites, who's just moved back to London and has been killing it over in the UK. We'll be coming back in early October. And in late November, a few more amazing comics coming up. In mid-December, we have Jason Leong, who's a Netflix special comic from Malaysia, who's been killing all over Australia. So we have 4 or 5 amazing international comics booked for the fall and early winter. All that stuff is on the 2-3 Comedy Facebook page and our Instagram. Tickets, we use AccuPass for buying all those tickets in advance. And so if you're interested, check out those shows. And if you're interested in performing, every Monday and Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. is the English language open mic.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. I had a really great chat with you, and it's been really fun.
I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Cheers.
That's all for this week's episode of Let's Go, and I'll see you next week.